With that, we move on to the digital conversation titled Enabling Digital Transformation, wherein Sharat, Chandra, blockchain and emerging technology evangelist, will be in conversation with Jaya, Vaidhyanathan, Chief Executive Officer at BCT Digital, and Amitabh, Managing Director at Ericsson Global Services India. With that, I hand over the floor to the moderator, Sharat, Chandra. Sharat, the virtual floor is all yours.
Thanks, Ivan, for the introduction. Good afternoon, everyone. Let me extend a warm welcome to my fellow panelists, Jaya and Amitabh. Jaya and Amitabh, welcome to today's conversation on enabling digital transformation. So let me begin by maybe by starting a brief commentary on how digital disruption has changed the world, the way we live and the way we work, right? And in new emerging technologies, they're also creating new markets, new customers and competitors. And these new competitors and customers are driving new expectations. So this also makes us wonder whether digital transformation is more like a new disruption or new normal in the disruption, right? So with this particular context, let me bring in Jaya first and get her views on what she thinks about some of the emerging technology trends and how they are driving digital transformation in Industry 4.0, and if she can draw some parallels with other industries and shed some light on that. Jaya, over to you.
Sure. I think most of us will agree that our digital conversations have been around some central technology themes. They continue to be IoT, it continues to be artificial intelligence, it continues to be predictive analytics, and a lot around connectivity or connectedness or interoperability. And it is also getting into some core areas of quantum computing. And what is that going to do in terms of large-scale disruption? And what was thought of digital transformation earlier on was more about what was happening towards the front office, or more in terms of what a consumer consumes. That was a component of digital transformation was driving the way, which was more in terms of B2C or more in terms of what is your interface to the world outside. And now it's more about get your home in order. And that means different things to different industries. Let me give an example of manufacturing and probably financial services and draw parallels about it. In manufacturing earlier, it was thought of as automation was digital, but what is automation truly in the sense? So it's a lot about sense and response in that sense. So it is more about, do you have the right chips? Let's say it's a power plant. Are they IoT enabled? Can you do preventive maintenance through the IoT technology? How do you use predictive analytics to kind of draw parallels between past performance versus future, draw patterns using AI and sense things before it happens? Because fixing a system is much harder than kind of doing a maintenance on it or kind of replacing a part. And then kind of looking at it in terms of your reporting and what do you do with it. Great examples now include even drone integrations. When you look at a solar farm, you look at drone pictures on sunspots or soiling, and how is that affecting performance and how do you ensure operational effectiveness? Same parallel with the fintech industry in terms of sense and response would be what we call an early warning system. How do you use a lot of the big data? That's a key technology paradigm shift. It's more, don't look at just the traditional data, but look at big data sources. For instance, if you're asking a bank, are they diverting funds? Look at big data to see if that particular beneficiary is in the news for the wrong reasons. Have they been subjected to frequent management audits? In the past, when this particular pattern of data came in, what was it like? And use of AI, not to supplement jobs, but to complement human mind. As in, if you have 3,000 data points for a human being, it's hard to make a decision. Whereas an AI kind of recognizes patterns and makes intelligent decisions out of it. And that's more prevention rather than cure as the theme. And it extends to manufacturing, it extends to fintech, it goes to retail, it's a whole bunch of things.
Thanks, Jay. And I think you rightly pointed about AI and big data, especially when it comes to creating maybe alternate credit scores for banks and fintechs.
Yeah.
So let me bring in Amitabh now and get his views on, Amitabh, what do you think about the role of communication technologies, new technologies like 5G, and how they can empower or enable the process of digital transformation?
Okay, thanks, Sharat. I think, first we'll have to understand with the emerging technologies like 5G or 6G, we already started talking about that. What kind of business model we envisage in business to business or business to consumer situation. Okay, we see four main areas of impact from 5G or low latency, high bandwidth, super fast mobile network. These four impact areas are primarily enhanced mobile broadband, massive Internet of Things, fixed wireless access, and ultra reliable low latency communication. And the use cases, if you see, it goes, from AR, VR, broadband for public transport, ultra low cost network in rural areas, dynamic hotspot or industrial automation, connected vehicles, edge computing, remote object manipulation, precision agriculture, predictive maintenance, among others. Let me tell you, I think with this 5G as a technology coming up, manufacturing is expected to be particularly a strong driver for its growth, with some of the most important distinctive use cases being related to automated guided vehicles, 3D beam picking, real-time process control, augmented reality, or things like that. The other area where we see a lot of impact of 5G or the communication technology in the digital or Industry 4.0 is a huge growth it is going to drive in the global media and entertainment industry. It has a significant operator revenue potentially estimated for our telecom operator to over 73 billion by 2030. Okay, with a growth with a CAGR of 64% from 2020 to 2030. Okay, so there are huge amount of opportunity, and over a period of next 7 to 8 years, the GSMA forecast says that 5G technologies will make an overall contribution to about 450 billion to the Indian economy. Because we are sitting in India, let's try to understand what kind of impact 5G is going to create in here, which is about 0.6% of GDP by 2040. The manufacturing sector, as I said in the beginning, is said to benefit most from the 5G capabilities, accounting for about 20% of the total benefit, followed by the retail and, of course, ICT industries.
Thanks, Amitabh. And I think the recent developments and kind of reforms by the government, especially in automobile and telecom sector, where they are allowing FDI into telecom, right, and to spur innovation in both 5G technologies, right? So I think that's a great beginning. But let me also get your views on what do you think about automation as a key component of digital transformation, because businesses are adopting smart automation or automation as one of their strategies to build new revenue streams, cut down costs, make their processes resilient and efficient. Your views on that?
Yeah. So if you look at the traditional enterprise, they are going through, at this point in time, primarily traditional automation, which is RPA based, okay, which is basically executes rule based and repetitive processes by mimicking what users will do. And then from there, we are moving into augmented intelligence, using a little bit of machine learning on top of it, trying to get OCR, ICR integration, which basically recognizes the content and extract information from an image or scanned document. So it can be, any letter or any book, it can read it from there and gather some intelligence out of it. And then, if you add on top of it, which we are seeing that integration happening slowly by steadily, is natural language processing to this, okay? Where you will see the emergence of more chat bots, voice bots, okay? They are conventional automation which integrates system on the back end, and then in banking sector and all you will see those implementation, right? And the last phase we'll see is a deep learning. So whatever the machines today are learning from all these three earlier processes I mentioned, how do you institutionalize that inside your digital archive, that knowledge, and use it to make your processes better? That we call deep learning. And these four distinctive processes will basically convert the traditional enterprise into an intelligent enterprise, which is, I believe, the ultimate objective of Industry 4.0.
If I may add to that, there are a couple of more steps to that process, which is something that we are seeing a lot outside India, and I'm seeing more and more of the instances happening in India, which is the merging of not just physical and digital, which has been there for a while, but also the biological, which is more to do with the neural nets and the comprehension of how a human being thinks. And it's more just not deep learning, which is learning based on past, but more advancement into the realm of not supplementing human beings, but enabling human beings to make decisions much better. So I think that's the crossover point where, you would have seen where you make an appointment, which was very famous, where you try to make an appointment with a hair salon, and then you get a response and it mimics the way that a human being interacts. That is something that we've seen, and we're going to see a lot more shift into intelligent decision making, which is more in the realm of when a human being gets confused with too much of data, how do you kind of draw patterns out of it and then present it to a human being where he can make a decision based on intelligent analysis of information, data, and convert that into something that's an intelligence, actually.
So let me get your views on what are some of the sectors you're seeing these kind of applications being used aggressively. Is it healthcare? Is it manufacturing, or mostly on the BFSI side?
I see it on pretty much a lot of different sectors. I want to draw a parallel between, I'll pick on something I spoke about power plants. I'm going to probably pick on journey management, digital journey management as an example, where a lot of the logistics sector, where that's being used, where you see IoT, intra-vehicle kind of management systems, where you have it in a vehicle, connected vehicles, more from a health and safety perspective. Driver breaks frequently. What kind of is he tired? What kind of inference can you do? What was his past driving behavior? Extrapolate it to the current behavior, and then do a parallel and kind of look at it from a health and safety perspective. That could be one. A lot of the freight exchange that happens, a lot of the fuel automation kind of serving on that. So connected pretty much in the logistics industry is a huge application of IoT, for instance. I would be remiss if I didn't mention AI in the realm of financial services. Some of the credit decisioning that I spoke to you about, that uses a lot of the soft data, and we must continue to do that. Because that is where we don't do post-mortem analysis. We are doing a lot of the prevention. And in a country like India, there are two components to it, like an NPA situation. One is the willingness to pay. Second is the ability to pay. Ability to pay is a science. Willingness to pay is more complex than a science, because that is where a lot of the scams come, and you'll have to think a bit like a scammer to come up with what is it? How can you prevent that? Which means an application of AI into certain patterns. In the past, when this type of a pattern happened, it was more a willingness issue. There is potential for fraud. How do you kind of prevent a lot of those outlier events from happening? And that's increasingly used. You see that in, I use power plants as an example, but those are areas where you find oil drilling and things like that, where it's hard for humans to go in. And you kind of use a lot of what we see in terms of a drone technology, images that come from it. How do you kind of compare that? And how do you kind of use that in areas which are remote enough that you need the data from that? And how do you integrate that actively into decision making? Smart cities. So I could keep talking about it, but it's more about the kind of data that's hard to get, and how do you use technology for the hard to get data and then make it common stream. And that's how I would look at it.
Thanks, Jaya. Let me get in Amitabh now. And Amitabh, if you can share some of the insights from one of the, let's say, practical implementations which you or your team has done with respect to digital transformation. What are some of the learnings and, let's say, roadblocks or implementation challenges?
Absolutely. So I'll talk about how we are using AI in our own technology platforms. As you know, that we're a communication company. So the first phase of digital transformation accelerated by the pandemic has already happened. And this first phase was basically when physical systems were embedded with digital properties, right? We witnessed the digital transformation across industry, from media and entertainment to retail. Jaya already talked about in fintech, okay, and even in the restaurant business, okay. So platforms become the norm for connecting with customers, delivering product and services in our case. So the next phase, what we believe will witness the combination of billions of connected devices, petascale computing, and advanced communication capabilities. So in Ericsson, if I look at how we are utilizing it, we have redesigned network rollout for 5G with intelligent deployment, what we call. So as a building block for optimum network lifecycle management, it connects network design, installation, integration, acceptance, maintenance, and service evolution. The solution comprises, everything like artificial intelligence, automation, and a data-driven cloud-based architecture that supports different functionalities service providers can use, such as intelligent site engineering, which is very, very important for our network deployment, that where you can put those sites to give better network coverage, right, on the mobile broadband area. So intelligent deployment will deliver the right network at the right time. Use of network for will be monitored, and in an intelligent way, it will keep working for continuous improvement on its own. And this is pretty much basically data-driven and digitized process, which allows the service provider to make the network management decision quicker. If I need to route my network load from one base station to the other, integration of AI will ensure the evolution of network with the changing time. In UK, for their largest service provider or the operator, we are using Ericsson's intelligent deployment solution to speed up network upgrades. Drones and leader-based 3D technology are collecting high-definition imagery and data across 70 sites to deliver more digitized and efficient network deployment for our customers. So this is one of the examples where AI or artificial intelligence plays a key role in enabling automation, managing the complexity and the scalability, and leveraging on data from distributed system in real time to deliver it.
Thanks, Amitabh. Maybe as a closing remark, would you like to share how issues of cybersecurity, when it comes to threats or outages, how they are being managed, and how automation or smart automation can have a role to play in terms of predictive maintenance or managing risks?
Sure. I'll probably start with saying that whenever you introduce a new channel, you're not only benefiting from what the channel brings in terms of either ease of use or enhanced revenues, cutting costs, but you also introduce new risks. And the main risk being cybersecurity risk. And there are multiple protocols, and it's still a largely unregulated industry because digitization is new as such. And digitization before the pandemic was more about automation. Digitization post-pandemic is more about real-time implications, and it's more about the kind of delivery of a model. Cloud was thought to be something that was prone to, I want to keep it close to home because it's an on-prem thing. And that means I have security under my control, was largely a belief. And now you will see that everybody is moved to a cloud model. And that is a given. It's no longer something that you even think about. And that is something because you're transferring the security to somebody else who's specialized in doing that. That's one component of it. That's one way of looking at it and saying, how do I transfer some of the risks inherent to somebody that does that for a living? But on a whole, if you look at it, these kind of movements were also necessitated by the fact that people couldn't travel to a location. And therefore, these challenges that opened up brought in a whole gamut of new protocols. It's brought in a new lot of regulation. And I think some countries have kept up with it remarkably in terms of, the complete focus on cybersecurity. And I would say that in India, we still need to kind of evolve some of those rules and protocols around it so that there are more uniform standards and governance around it. And even cybersecurity at the board level needs to be a mandate that we look at it because the reputational impact of an attack is quite significant and that needs to be a board agenda.
Thanks, Jaya. Great points. Amitabh, your closing remarks, please, for this session.
Yeah, no, I think Jaya already covered it all. Cybersecurity will remain. More and more people will, connect to the cloud, and these threats will become more important. So I think usage of technology in there and the investment, I think that will become very, very important going forward. So how do we use AI as a technology and deep learning, machine learning as a technology to deal with cybersecurity? I think that you will see more and more investment and focus going forward in that area.
Thank you. Thanks, Amitabh and Jaya, for your wonderful insights. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Ivan, over to you.
Thank you so much. That was Jaya Vaidhyanathan and Amitabh Ray in conversation with Sharat Chandra on enabling digital transformation in the 25 minutes and odd time that you had. Thank you so much for your insights, Jaya and Amitabh. Not just the insights that you provided, but you made it come alive for the members of the audience with real life examples, and that made it even more delightful for us to listen to. We wish you and your respective organizations the very best going forward, and thank you, Sharat, for doing a fantastic job of moderating this digital conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Stay tuned in, ladies and gentlemen. We will be back on the other side with the all-star panel.